Welcome to Grounded Earth, Moving Sky. Through story, sensation, and lived experience, this is a place to pause, stay rooted, and listen inward while life and the sky continue to move. Hello, I'm Tina Schaefer. Let me tell you about the day we went to Lake Michigan. It was early September, one of those Indian summer days when, the season is over and you're living on borrowed sunshine. All summer long, I'd been saying the same thing over and over again. We need to get to the lake. God, could we please just go to the lake this week? There's something about that water that restores me. The sparkle, the shimmer, just looks like magic. And when I'm stretched and I'm really tired or sad, I can't quite name what I feel. I just have that pull to get to the lake, to put my feet in the water, to look out at that vast blue and remember that whatever feels heavy can be set down for a while. That summer day was different. Steve hadn't been feeling well. His COPD was worsening. He'd just been put on home oxygen. And quietly, without saying it out loud, we both knew that some of the things we used to do weren't guaranteed anymore. So we grabbed an old atlas, we marked a destination, and decided to go for a drive. Not north like we used to do, up to the UP, camping in the woods, hunting out a waterfall or two, but straight to the closest place we could reach, Lake Michigan. The lighthouse at St. Joe, Michigan was our destination. That day was absolutely gorgeous for a drive. Blue sky, warm sun. It looked like summer, but you could feel the shift in the air. The cooler morning, the cooler evening, the sun not quite as strong as it used to be. When we got there, Steve was worn out almost immediately. We drove past the marina and the yacht club and into the little park that led out to the lighthouse. I dropped him and Sissy near the picnic tables under the pavilion where it was shaded and went to park the car across the parking lot. By the time I paid for my ticket and walked back, maybe 10 minutes later, he was gone. He wasn't under the pavilion anymore. So I wandered down a little path and I found him down by the pier, leaning against the rail, looking out at the boats going up and down the channel. I asked him if he was ready to go, and he said, "No, this is it for me. I'm whipped. I just want to go sit in the car with the air conditioner on." I looked at him. Normally, I would have calculated my loss right there. I would have stuffed it down, turned around, and said, "Okay, we saw it. Let's go." This time I didn't do that. I glanced toward the lighthouse, and then I looked back up at him as I handed him the keys. "Are you okay to sit in the car while I walk out to the lighthouse?" "Yeah," he said, "sure. Enjoy your walk." I wasn't being defensive or resentful when I asked, and I didn't feel like I was abandoning him. I was balancing care for him with care for myself, and for once, neither canceled the other out. I was choosing myself calmly and cleanly, making sure that he was taken care of, watching him head back to the air-conditioned car while I went to do what I needed to do for me. And I didn't collapse into guilt either. As I stepped out onto the pier, I noticed this was not some sweet boardwalk. It was a working structure. As I tried to take the scope of how big this was, and I was looking at it, there was huge cement blocks with big bolts and bands of metal holding everything together. And there was a solid spine of metal running down the middle. And you could tell this was built to endure. It would be lashed by water and changed with weather to stand out there no matter what. I walked all the way to the main lighthouse. Kind of looked around a little bit, and then I continued on around it, out to the second one further down. I stood out there for a few minutes, feeling the warmth of the sun and the light mist rising from the waves, and I just was so taken by how beautiful the water was and the sound of the waves lapping against the pier. I stayed for a few minutes and then I turned around and headed back. And as I walked back, I began to notice underneath my feet the uneven metal. Hadn't registered before, and suddenly it did. And this fleeting thought crossed my mind. Oh, I hope I don't fall. And then I did. I stumbled. I started to fall forward, and I caught myself just in time. Oh, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw this man leaning toward me, ready to help if I went down. A perfect stranger. Kindness already there. Are you okay? He asked. And I laughed and I said, yeah, that was a close one. And in that moment, something registered in my body before my mind even had a chance to catch up. I was going to be okay. I did a quick body check, back, neck, hips, all the places that could have been tweaked. Nope, everything's fine. And I praised myself I hadn't fallen. And then I realized that even if I had, I wouldn't have been alone. There was someone there to help me. And balance didn't mean that I never wobbled. It meant I knew how to adjust when I did. As I kept walking, I was thinking, and I noticed my steps change. And I began to pay just a little more attention. I chose firmer ground, adjusted from the uneven metal to the solid cement. And there it was, not a thought, not an affirmation, just a physical knowing. I can trust myself to move forward, even after I wobble. That walk back to the car mattered more than I knew. I wasn't rushing. Steve was safe in the car. I had permission from him and from myself to take all the time that I wanted. I'd gone all the way out to the second lighthouse, and I'd come all the way back. I had even stumbled, and I was still standing. And there are moments in time when life feels louder than usual, not because something dramatic is happening all at once, but because old patterns are loosening and shifting, and new ones haven't settled yet. In seasons like that, the body doesn't learn through ideas. It learns through contact and experience, through moments where balance is tested and quietly restored. I didn't know it then, But that walk back from the lighthouse was my body learning something it would need later on. How to keep moving forward when the terrain changes. How to find even ground when life doesn't feel familiar anymore. That lighthouse stands firmly out there in all kinds of weather. Yes, it gets battered, but it's anchored deeply enough to hold its position while everything around it moves. And maybe that's what balance looks like when it's grounded. Not certainty, not invulnerability, but the quiet confidence that even when we wobble, our roots hold and we know how to find our footing again.